You've no doubt seen reports of police chases that include officers using stop sticks to deflate the tires of a suspect's vehicle. A Phoenix company is advancing that law enforcement tool with a new technology called Safe Quick Undercarriage Immobilization Device, or SQUID. And it's the focus of tonight's edition of Horizon's ongoing series, Arizona Technology and Innovation. And here to talk about SQUID is Martín Martínez, president of Engineering Science Analysis Corporation. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here, sir.
Oh, okay, before we describe exactly what this does, where did this idea come from?
Depends on where you read it, because it came out in the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and they said the way we came up with it was I was sitting down drinking a lot of Guinness and smoking cigars.
Well,
there's a little truth to that. That's a good way to do ideation. But the way I really came up with it was Sharon Ballard actually helped me put my thoughts together, and then later on, my father-in-law and I actually did come up with a final design, if you will, over cigars and Guinness.
Okay.
So it did happen.
It did happen.
Yes.
Let's describe exactly what this device does.
The device itself, the original embodiment of the SQUID, there's several spiral technologies that came from it, but the original embodiment, the way it works is it stops the vehicle by immobilizing the rotating components underneath the vehicle itself. So as it goes over, it'll either lock up the drivetrain, be it the drive shaft, and in essence what it does is it lassos the rotating components to the static components.
So how does that work? Give us an example of a car is fleeing. How does, as we're watching a little bit of video here, how does this exactly work?
Well, the way it would work is it's in the middle of the road, and as the vehicle goes over, what you're seeing there are several embodiments. The embodiment here where it wraps up the drive shaft,
yes.
That one, you were asking the size of it earlier, it's less than 2.5 feet long by about 15 inches wide, and it's a speed bump. And as the vehicle goes over, let's say the officer would push a button, it throws out these arms, which then spike the front tires and then lassos the front suspension, so now you have a static point. As it continues going over, it fires all these tendrils up into the rotating components. Then the tendrils, think of it like a fishing line.
Yes.
It's a fishing leader, and it pulls the strap right into the rotating components, which then locks up the entire drivetrain. It's almost like a spider net coming underneath and just grabbing everything.
Well, it's funny you mention a spider net, because forget the cigars and Guinness, I had read that you were inspired by Spider-Man.
That too.
So you were inspired by Spider-Man.
Definitely.
And that's how this thing kind of works.
Yeah.
Okay, in terms of weight, is this the kind of thing that law enforcement can easily transport? Does it need a little unwieldy? How does this work? It's
transportable. It weighs less than 50 pounds. When we were developing for Department of Homeland Security Advanced Research Projects Agency, we got it through a grant to develop it. And the whole thing was they wanted something that was less than 100 pounds, you know, a certain size, and we ended up coming in pretty much under everything that they needed. One thing we did learn, though, was when we were done developing this thing, it was a little too, I would say, MacGyver for, you know, local law enforcement. So we were thinking of other ways of helping. So we thought of spiral technologies. So we said, okay, the way the SQUID works, it throws these arms out. Well, you know, if you chop an arm off, put it in an ammo box, now you have a self-deploying spike strip. So those are some of the videos you're seeing there. That, we call it the SQUID strip. Now it's been renamed the Viper. We licensed the technology away, so another company is actually developing it here in the Valley, further developing it and productionizing it.
So talk more about how this original SQUID idea is now advancing, because can't you load these things into the street or something along those
exactly.
lines?
And you saw somewhere the spike strip is actually in barriers, right? So if you're having a police chase and these things are embedded in a barrier, you'd never see it coming, right? So the police could just push a button, a spike strip would come out, spike your tires, and it'd reel it right back in, and you wouldn't know what hit you. And the thing about that is, we were inspired, unfortunately, while we were working on the SQUID itself, under an SBIR program, Phase 2, it takes 2 years to get there. Well, we were in our first year, and Border Patrol agent Luis Aguilar had gotten run over in Yuma, and we'd read he was trying to deploy a spike strip, trying to get a fleeing felon, you know, was crossing the border. And he actually went out there and tried to throw it out. You know how dangerous that is. So we said, well, what kind of a quick technology can we just strip off the SQUID right now? You know, it's what spiral technology, and we came up with what we called the SQUID strip, and it was a self-deploying spike strip. So we just stripped an arm off a SQUID is what we did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Response, now, not in use yet, but being tested, correct?
There's another embodiment as well. It's another speed bump that puts out a net, back to Spider-Man, and it spikes the front tires, and it wraps the front tires, I want to call it like a burrito, and it locks up the vehicle. If you went to our website, squid-technologies.com, you'll see all these videos where it shows all the different embodiments that actually came from the squid. That one right there is actually being tested by DoD. The spike strip itself, we've been trying to secure a little bit more funding from the Department of Homeland Security to further productionize it. We do have working prototypes, you know, everything's there, but trying to penetrate the market is always difficult.
Talk about the funding aspect as well, because the Department of Homeland Security is involved in here, and you're mentioning SBIR here. Talk about how you get funding for this particular program.
SBIRs, the acronym is Small Business Innovative Research. And the federal government, all the agencies have this discretionary funding that they put aside. Actually, they're required to put it aside. And it's in phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1, what they will do is they'll put a call for needs, if you will, and they say, okay, you little companies, tell me what crazy ideas you have to solve this problem. Well, our crazy idea to solve, you know, stopping a car was Spider-Man, right? So they said, prove to me that you're going to be able to do it. For phase 1, we'll give you $100,000, $75,000 to $100,000. And with that, you know, a small company can do a lot, right? Whereas a big company, no, you wouldn't get much. You'd get a meeting. That's all you would get. So the small company, what they have to do is they have to try to prove feasibility of this crazy idea. And if you make whoever the sponsoring agency comfortable enough, they'll ask you to propose phase 2. Phase 2 is $750,000 to $1 million. And that's 2-year. It's a 2-year program. So in essence, you're getting investors, and it's the federal government, but you get to keep the technology. And you can license it. Then from there you go to phase 3, right? So that's technically productionization. But phase 3 is somewhat nebulous in that you can do whatever the heck you want, and you'll score phase 3. We did it a very difficult way in that we licensed it. You know, we didn't have to get investors on it. We actually licensed it to a company. But my company is actually meant to, we're innovators. We don't want to get into production. We have a core team of engineers that are very, 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 very innovative. I say I preside over a bunch of rocket scientists, but we put in rocket science with product development with Monster Garage, as you can see by some of the testing we were doing.
Last question. We've only got 30 seconds here, but when you first work with the idea, I guess if you got a bunch of innovators, no one really thinks you're crazy, do they? Because some inventors get that, but you don't get that much.
They talk themselves out of it, is what happens sometimes with inventors.
Interesting.
Engineers too.
Yeah.
We're engineers.
So basically, it's been all systems go since the first idea came up.
Yes. We also now have another phase 2 with Navy, where we're developing the aquatic version of it, which will be a boat stopper / swimmer stopper.
All right. Well, once that works, maybe we'll get you back on to talk about that.
Would love to.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.